Welcome back to Kikao Show. Do we have in Africa the capacity to develop this technology and bring them to our farmers? Do we have a mechanism to borrow a leaf from Argentina through different collaborations? Do we have a plan to create a critical mass of people who understand this and who can work on different crops to develop the products that will go to the farmers? A mouthful.
And really excellent questions, Canisius, really excellent questions. So firstly, on capacity, in my small lab at Kenyatta University, we can create genome-edited sorghum within 3 months, no problem. All we need is a tissue culture lab. And with that said, we also need the capacity developed from the government. And taking from what Martin said, and I think more importantly, look back at the Green Revolution. What we call the Green Revolution today was supported a lot by the government. In fact, what started was scientists in Asia developed local solutions. I mean, solutions to solve local problems. Yeah. And then the government said, hey, this is one of us, why not invest? And the governments in Asia put in a lot of money to support those scientists. They said, one of our own have done this. And I think what we need to do is to have that support from the government. And I think what we need to, or what our governments need to do is to emulate that example from Asia and from Argentina, saying that we have one of our own, creating solutions for local problems.
We have an experience that when a research is developed in a lab like Stephen's lab here or yours, landing in the hands of the farmers, there is quite a number of steps. And once you have created the willingness of the farmer to change, to adopt the technology and use it, then the quantity, the quality of the product so that they can be able to apply them is quite difficult. It is another mountain to climb. So, and it needs a public investment. I mean, it means a private investment so that it can flow and be sustained, whereas research, for example, could be supported more by public. I want to hear from you, Martin, the experience of how the private sector came in and invested money, how the trust came in, because when we talk of this, it becomes, we go to the chicken and the egg cycle. The private sector show me that it can work. And you say, I need money to show you that it can work. And then we remain in that. How did you break that vicious cycle?
Well, for previous biotechnology crops, there was a lot of money needed for the regulatory phase. And that scared away private investors in countries like Argentina or any other developing country. And the governments didn't have enough money to fund, not the research part, but the deregulation part. Now with genome editing, again, this technology doesn't have the same implications in terms of risk. It's much safer, and therefore it can be assessed very quickly with very little investment. So right after we issued this regulation, we started to see that startup companies were created. For instance, there is one called Bioheuris in Argentina that is, this company works solely on genome editing of crops. And it does exist only because we have this regulation. If not, it didn't exist. And it is editing soybean, cotton, and also sorghum. So there could be a collaboration with Dr. Runo's laboratory in the future. And that company didn't ask for the government for money. The investors came instead of investing in, I don't know, in bitcoins. Instead of investing in some other thing, they put this money on this because they have the amount of money is not that much, and they have a certainty that the product will reach the market and they will have a return. Even foreign companies are coming to Argentina not to sell the products, to get installed and develop things in Argentina. So they are becoming Argentine companies. They come to invest just because of our good regulation for this.
That addresses a number of things. Now, we are talking of key stakeholders like the political buy-in, the political will to support this, the policymakers to create that environment, that enabling environment that will allow the private sector to come in. We have a category of stakeholders that I think would very quickly accelerate all these efforts that we are doing. The youth. How do we engage those different segments of our stakeholders? How do we engage political people? Political people. How do we engage policymakers and regulators together? How do we engage the youth so that this genome editing effort can get momentum in Africa?
Canisius, I think you just talked about a very well-structured communication strategy. So the specific messages you pass to the youth. The youth would like to treat genome editing. I just edited or just planted a genome-edited product, or I'm working with genome editing. And then the politicians, you need champions that understand the technology that would be able to influence programmatic changes. And then, and I think my favorite stakeholders are the women. The women, because not only because they are very receptive to technology, but also because they are very good implementers of technology. And I have worked with them, and I'm sorry, I'm biased towards women in agriculture because they are very good technology advocates. And agriculture, I mean, there's very good documentation of women as very good supporters of technology. And you just need to have a very different and structured communication strategy for all of them.
The lenders also will say the same. Huh? When they work with women, they get return easily, it seems. Men...
I trust my money with women more.
That is very good. How did you develop the communication thing around all this?
Well, first of all, the government called journalists and people specialized in explaining both agricultural topics and science topics. And they share about the scientific developments and the new regulation. Then the government organized workshops for the general public, including video broadcasting, so people would look at it over the internet or be present, and people could react to that. So we could have the reactions from the very ordinary public, not someone that is a specialized person. We got the feedback, and then we had an iteration. We updated our regulation on genome editing, and then we communicated and got feedback, and we underwent a second update of our regulations, always taking into account the feedback from the stakeholders and the general public.
Participatory process. Where do you see genome editing in the next 10 years in Africa, Stephen?
No, I think in 10 years, Africa will be, I think right now or in other technologies, Africa is behind. But I have no doubt in my mind that Africa will be very significant and very significantly involved in genome editing. I believe that there will be real solutions coming from this continent.
Thank you very much. From the discussion with Martin and Stephen, genome editing has a lot of promise and potential to address most of the challenges we have in agriculture. Of course, it is not the silver bullet. Genome editing alone will not solve all the issues, but it will contribute significantly to this. The other parts of the world have already started, and farmers are benefiting for it. We need to bring those benefits to our people. Genome editing is safe, and it is precise, and it can be fast. The secret that Martin has shared with us from Argentina is that it was homegrown to address local problems. And that was very easy to have a buy-in from different quarters of the stakeholders. We need to build, to strengthen that capacity. We need to communicate strategically so that we can have politicians, we can have policymakers, we can have the farmers, we can have scientists and others to be part of this, I will call it revolution. I think it is very important. But one of the things that came every time, in addition to the communication and strategy, is to start it with locally identified problems and then go with it. Because when you are addressing the issue at the common mwananchi, as we say in Kenya, then it becomes part of the whole system. So let's work together to create that environment that is needed, to get the private sector and other partners to work together for the change that we need, with this area being one of the tools to transform agriculture in Africa.
Let's now look at our science terminology for the week on Science Speak.
The word for this week is genome. Genome is a complete set of genetic material or DNA in an organism. The genome contains all the information needed for that organism, such as a human being or even a plant, to develop and grow.
So yes, the technology is here, the experts are here, and yes, there are also lessons to learn from different parts of the world. What's left now is for Africa to take action. Until next week, my name is Joe Agayo. Thanks for watching Kikao.